Hey guys, I have a lot to do today. I've got to go pull some queen cells that I grafted from that queenless nuke you guys saw me make last week. Use those cells to replace the queens we caged yesterday from our minis. Take some mated queens from the bank to go give to some splits that failed to queen. Then I've got to go feed and medicate a bee yard and hopefully get back in time to record a new podcast episode. So I know some people take Sundays off. Over here, it's Sunday's just another Monday, so I'm gonna get to it. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, we got a nice little batch here. Got about 25 out of 40 grafts. Not amazing, but honestly, for third week October, I'll take it. Got to throw some cells in here. Let's see. We just put a little pin to mark, and when's the next time I need to come and check, which November 17th is pretty optimistic. But I don't know if you guys can see, but they're not looking terrible. This one's a little bit on the weaker side, but all they really need to do is be able to incubate this queen cell. And I'm gonna just stick it in here. If they don't make it to this point, I mean, I don't care. We've gotten our money's worth from them. So I do think it's worth just grafting a few just to keep them running. We've got about 75 of these minis still left. And after we went through and caged yesterday, I really thought they would be gone, but they kind of surprised me. They're looking actually overall pretty good. Some of them are just slam full of cat brood, pollen. There were some that were making their own drones. And I really didn't think you could run these things this long. I thought we'd shut them down in September, but they seem to still be doing okay. The queens are mating okay. I didn't get a count on our mating success this week, but we've been getting about 50% on mating through these things through September and October so far. But honestly, it doesn't cost, you saw it doesn't really take much to run a little queenless nuke like that and just keep popping cells into these. I just give them a cell and a little bit of syrup every week. I'm not doing anything else to them. And we're still just putting out a few queens, enough to keep my hives, my filled splits going, and enough to requeen some bad colonies. But I'm gonna see how long we can run these things for this year. Yeah, this one's looking pretty good. I just try to always put it wherever I see a cluster and where it won't fall down. Usually it's more towards the feeder, but these have actually kind of been in the front. If the hive's too weak, they won't incubate that cell because these just got caps and they're not going to hatch for a whole week. Yeah, here's a good one. Look at that one. Full of honey back there, slam full of bees. I threw some foundation in some of them and they drew the foundation out. And it's pretty. They've got to be in good shape when these little ones are producing drones. That's not so common. So I'm pretty happy. I mean, we're right at the tail end of October. I definitely can't complain about getting a few more mated queens before the season's over. I put all 25 cells in. I'm still a few cells short to patch everything up. It's a little frustrating. We've been having a few extra cells every week, but what can you do? What I've been doing with these minis is we discovered if we go through them every 2 weeks and we don't see eggs, to be safe, we just throw another cell in at the 2-week mark. Even though we're caging them at the 3-week mark, we burn through a lot more cells with that method, but I find it's just a lot faster, and we just tend to keep more of the minis alive because they're just kind of a pain in the butt to go and rebuild and sell up for 3 days and the whole thing. So I'd rather waste a queen cell than waste a nuke. And just sometimes when you do that, you end up wasting a lot of cells because sometimes if we check them at 14 days, sometimes there's a queen that's a few days delayed. She's not laying and she'll destroy that cell. Or sometimes there's just only a handful of eggs and we just overlook it. So it's a little wasteful on the queen cell side, but I find we get better results on the mated queen side. But sometimes we end up like this, where we just don't have enough cells to give everything a cell. So what's going to happen to those? They're so small and they're so weak, and it's so late in the season. I doubt they're going to make their own queen. So we're going to lose all the ones that unfortunately I didn't have enough cells for. But you know, we've been running them all year long now, and I think we're running them a lot longer than I thought we would. So I think we got our money's worth out of them, so it should be okay. Okay, here's a queen bank I'm using. It's just a good double deep colony with a queen excluder. I got a queen down there doing her thing, laying her eggs, and I just got a bunch of brood and pollen up here. Had a bucket of syrup on them too, but they're getting pretty plugged out. Actually, they drew, I didn't have a frame in here from last week, and they drew the whole frame of comb down in there. Well, mostly a frame. There it is there. So they're still making wax, and I can see all that white wax here. So I didn't have a lot of extra queens this week, but we got a few. And I'm going to go use these to patch up some failed splits. Let's see. All right. All right. Had about 10 queens. We'll see how many took. Out of 10 queens that I had left here in the bank, one of them didn't make it. The other 9 are doing great. They're pretty well covered. Don't know what happened to her. She looked pretty bad yesterday when I put her in the bank, so I don't know if we just handled her a little too rough when we caged her, or she got exposed to the sun, or what happened. But, you know, I used to be so against queen banking because you read all these studies and say long-term queen banking will actually lower the quality of the queens. And I agree with that. They shouldn't be banked for long, but I've gotten to the point where I like to bank them overnight if possible, because what I've started to notice, and it's just my opinion, I don't know if this is fact, that if there's a queen in there that has low pheromone production, or, you know, if I handled her pretty rough, they're going to die out in that bank overnight. The bees will just ignore them and won't take care of them. And I've actually had less issues selling them to the public when they've been banked overnight. Like if I had caged her and given her to a customer, you know, they wouldn't be happy because she probably wouldn't have made it, you know, for whatever reason. But I know that these 9 are good. The bees determined that they were worth taking care of, especially because I'm using a queen right bank. They already have a queen down there, so it's not like they're desperate and in need for a queen. That's a good sign for me. So I'm going to keep banking them. I feel better, honestly, ever since we've been using the bank. I just feel like it kind of is a quality check for the queens. If there's an issue with the queens, the bank will select the bad queens, ignore them, and they'll be dead the next morning. So I'm happy with this right here. This is those splits I made in my last splits September 2024 video. They have been just really coming up nice. We got a good take on the queens. They're drawing foundation. They've been growing like crazy. There were a few that just the cells didn't work. I think I threw in a second round of cells. They didn't work. So I'm going to take a quick peek and just see if they still haven't queened. It's been a little bit since I came over here. And if they haven't, I'm going to put in these mated queens and get out of here because I still got another yard to run through. I just gave them a little green pin to let me know this one didn't queen right. I normally use orange flagging tape because it pops out, but I've had a problem is that when I use the buckets, if I tie the flag to the bucket, they tend to blow off. And if I stick them under the lid, they blow off. So I'm trying the green pins this year, and I think it's a little bit better, I think. We'll see. First hive that I thought was queenless. I already found the queen running around. She's very pretty. She's pretty big too. And I don't think it'll pick it up on the phone, but you saw there was a lot of camp drone brood here. So actually, I think what happened with this one was it was a drone layer when I came to check it. And I probably pinched her. And again, I don't think it's going to show here, but there's a lot of fresh eggs. There's no larva. So I know she's not the drone layer. I know that this new queen is laying. Now, I don't know if she's fertile or not because there's nothing but eggs, but I think this one I'm not going to put a queen in, and we'll give them a chance. Well, I might be a little early here because look at that. She's running. She's pretty small. She might be virgin or she may have recently mated. There's no eggs in this other split I'm checking, but I'm going to give them a chance too. I hate to waste one of these mated queens. I see one running around. I'll just have to come back and leave the pin in this one. Oh, man, I don't know. Might be too early to check this week, but I'll take a peek at the other ones, just see what I see. Look at that. There goes another one. She is beautiful. Look, these queens were mated in, I guess, shoot, they were probably mated in October, I suppose. Got a lot of fresh eggs here. No larva, no cat brood. I don't know how well she mated, but yeah, they're beautiful. Every one of these I keep going through, I'm either finding a Looks like either a virgin queen or a queen that's not laying yet, or fresh eggs. I may not have to use these queens. That'll be awesome. Yeah, look, here's another one. I think I'm just too early. I should have checked my notes and saw when these cells hatched. I mean, it's definitely been about 2 weeks because a lot of them are starting to lay eggs, but I don't know if this one didn't mate or it's one maybe they raised themselves. I don't know, but I am not going to risk these queens. I got plenty of people who are waiting on them, and I need them myself. So I'll probably just come back in another week or two and see what's happening, and hopefully these will start laying. Look at this. That's gold right there. I put this is just a box of medium foundation I put on just a few weeks ago, right in October. And these were late September splits made with queen cells, and the ones that did queen on the first batch of cells have started to draw foundation. Already starting to cap this frame, which now I'm feeding them. I just put on their second 2-gallon bucket on them, so that's not just a lot of nectar coming in, but there's definitely got to be some nectar in line with the corn syrup. And I just never seen this late in the season, but they're still working on it. So man, that is really great. If they can just keep growing, I hope they do. We can get these girls to California, and that'll be fantastic. The farmers just harvested the cotton across the road from that bee yard I was at. A lot of cotton. What I'm hoping they'll do soon is they'll finish cutting all these cotton stalks down, and then they'll disc this cotton in, and then we'll get some mustard that'll start blooming in this field. It's not as good as a peanut field for the mustard production, but it's still going to be pretty good. You can see the bees way over there. And we don't really get any nectar off the cotton here, but a lot of guys will move their bees up to Georgia, because in Georgia, they'll have the large irrigation systems, the sprinkler systems for their cotton fields. And if they get a lot of rain on top of the irrigation systems, the cotton will actually put out nectar. Now this was a peanut field. I showed in one of the older videos. This one's also right next to that bee yard and on the same road as that cotton field. They've harvested the peanuts, as you can see, and you can see those yellow flowers out there. So this is what grows after the peanuts, and to some degree the cotton. Actually, there's a little bee on that flower there, and she's visiting it. This is botanical gold for us over here, and in my part of the South, when there's nothing else blooming, November, December, January, shoot, sometimes even February, it just kind of depends on the weather, and they will put out a ton of pollen. I've never gotten nectar off of it. I've heard one guy tell me that, but never seen it myself, never heard from anybody else. But man, to see it this early, last year I didn't start getting this in this area until in December, is when I just checked my notes. It was like late December, which is, the farmers didn't plant this field, and that was part of it, and they harvested it really late. It just depends on when they disc this stuff in. But man, with this warm weather we're having, on top of the feed, on top of all this pollen, this is going to produce pollen for me for probably all winter long. So that just tells me I'm going to bring in several hundred colonies here. I might drop a whole semi-load of hives, and field this size, that'll feed 400 or 500 hives, no problem. We did about the same thing last year, and we didn't even have that much pollen, and they were still hauling in pollen all winter long. And I'll keep at least a couple solid frames of brood, even in my small colonies all winter. Larger colonies will actually have more brood, so long as it doesn't freeze too much. Usually weather stays pretty warm, we have a good 70-degree winter, the hives will look almost as good as they will in spring, as long as we don't get any hard freezes. But this is what I want to see. This is why I moved those splits next door, at the end of September. And as my other bee yards, I start seeing the wildflowers dying off and the hives start to shrink, I'm going to bring as many hives as I can here. And this field's only about 2 miles down the road from my farm, which is where we're going to load the semis for California. So I can run here, throw them on my truck, and run them over there to load the semi for California. So I'm really excited for this year. This is looking great. Okay, I'm going to run through all these colonies here, medicate them, give them another 2 gallons of syrup if they need it, and I'm sure they do. They've only had 4 gallons, and everywhere else has needed 6 gallons. There was a bit of robbing here last time, so I hope the colonies are okay. This was my second best winter yard last year. You can see it's a big pasture, which this is just grass, I think, for the cattle. But on the other side of that hill, there's a big commercial farming field. and we got a lot of mustard, like I was just showing you guys in the last location. So that was really great for the bees. But what happened is the population spiked so rapidly. I wasn't anticipating it because this was a new yard for us last year, and the mites just like shot through the roof. So they grew really quickly, but so did the mites. And by the time we were loading them on the semi for California, there was about a shovel full of dead bees at the entrance just from all the mite damage, which they still went to California, and the broker was happy with them. And I knocked the mites the best I could down, but I'm not going to make that mistake this year. I'm going to make sure I keep the mites down. You can see here the goldenrod's just about done. I'm seeing that all along the sides of the road. It's all starting to turn brown. There's still some of the younger blooms that are still looking pretty good, but I don't know how much longer we're going to get pollen off of it. There's still a ton of other wildflowers blooming, thank goodness, but I'm trying to just hurry up and get this last bit of feed on them before we lose all this pollen. This is what I'm consistently seeing in this yard. I got a plugged out medium honey super here. Pretty well plugged out 5 frames down there comb, and then just 5 empty frames of foundation. The bees are touching the first frame a little bit. They're trying to draw some, but honestly not much. And I split this yard. I pulled 5 frame nukes out of all of them in September, and I gave them 5 frames of foundation just because last year they were drawing foundation and doing so well. But this yard has not touched it at all, and it's crazy because you saw even that small split yard was drawing foundation, and these have had theirs for a lot longer, and these hives were a lot older. So a little frustrating, but the good thing is they're also plugged out with honey that I don't think I'm going to have to feed them again. And shoot, their buckets are still pretty full even 4 weeks later. So maybe there's something natural coming in as well. I'll just have to keep going and see what happens. What a mess, look at that. They're definitely producing wax. Still didn't touch the 5 frames of foundation over there. And I was thinking that foundation over there was old. So I was like, oh, maybe it's just old. There's no wax on it. That's why they're not drawing it. That's brand new foundation. Brand new frames. They're not touching it. And then I come up here to the top box and look at that mess. Bird comb everywhere, gluing the frames together. So they're making wax. They're just doing a terrible job of it. But again, the good thing is I'm probably not going to have to feed this yard, doesn't seem like. But man, it's going to be a bit of a mess. I may have to come back and just give them comb. This hive either swarmed or requeened itself. I can see a fairly recent queen cell here that looks like it hatched out okay, and the colony is very weak. I got cat brood, you can see, but there's no eggs, there's no larva. I've torn through it. I can't find the queen. I could give it one of those mated queens that I've got, since I've got some extra ones, but since there's still cat brood there, I kind of have a sneaking suspicion there is a virgin or just a small queen in here that I just can't find. Probably hasn't been too long. It'll be cat brood for at least 2 weeks. So that's usually the cat brood will just start hatching out about the time she'll start laying, or it'll be close to it. So I'm going to leave this one, and I'm going to put one of those little green pins in it, and I'll try to check it next time. But taking a gamble here. It might queen itself and be okay, or it may just be dead when I come back. But that's the gamble I'm going to take. So this is a little frustrating. I got to the last pallet in the yard, and I just saw that, I'm guessing the landowner or somebody hit my pallet hives and didn't say anything to me. Not massive damage. They bent the clip, they knocked this back, budgets went off the pallet. And I've definitely had worse. I've had some landowners have knocked the whole pallet over. But usually they call me and they just say, hey, I'm sorry, and it happens. What's crazy is, like, I can see where they bush hogged here. There's the line of the grass. They didn't even go over here. I don't know what happened, but somehow they whacked the pallet and didn't even bother to call or tell me. Maybe they didn't see, I don't know, but that's a little frustrating. I've been trying to break everything back down into 2-story colonies, but bottom box down here is slam plugged out. You can see the top one here is plugged out. I threw a deep box foundation on a few weeks ago when I was here, and they're trying to draw some foundation there. So I'm going to leave this one on. If nothing else, it'll just stop them from swarming, and hey, if I get lucky, they'll draw a deep box comb for me. But looking pretty good. So yard's done. Overall looks pretty good. The hives look pretty much like what you guys saw 5 frames of deep foundation that some are working on, some are not working on, but you know, a full medium box and 5 good frames of deep comb down there. You saw how plugged out they were, so thank goodness I don't need to feed them. I'm not seeing any mite damage. Queens seem to be doing just fine. That pallet that got nicked by a bush hog or whatever, whoever hit it, was fine. I was just able to bend the pallet clip back and seat the hives again. So only lost one little single that was getting robbed out last time. The rest of the hives are looking pretty good. So kind of glad I don't have to feed anything anymore because I'm blowing through so much syrup every day. I'm starting to worry I'm going to run out before I can give everything a 6-gallon, but this is a good sign here if they're starting to get plugged out, because these have only had 4 gallons. So that's done, and now I just need to run back, do some grafting, and that'll be it for the bee work today. Okay, I'm almost done grafting. Didn't do much, just about 40 larvae. And then we're going to call it a day. There's one there. I'm just going to pop it in this cup here, and then I'm finished. Okay, got my grafts in, got about 40 larvae. Put it back in this nuke I took out of this morning. They had a few cells they were raising themselves since I rebuilt it last week. That was part of the reason we got a bad take. Hopefully these will do a little better. And I'll check on those girls 5 days later. Hopefully they'll be capped. We'll have some more cells. All right, I got everything I needed to get done today. Bees are looking good. I was just about to run out of daylight, so finished just in time. And I did want to tell you guys just something really quick. I don't know if you guys have seen in the YouTube description or not for the channel, that I also have a beekeeping podcast called the Pollination Podcast. It's on Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. There's a YouTube too, but it's audio only. And this is the 1 month anniversary for the podcast. It's been 1 year since I started it. So I wanted to do something different. I wanted to broaden the scope of the podcast. So I've been reaching out to beekeepers both nationally and internationally, trying to schedule some interviews so I can find out how other people keep bees and I can share other perspectives besides just my own. So I just finished interviewing a beekeeper from Utah, which is really awesome. And I think it went really well. The audio quality sounds great. So as soon as I can finish getting it edited, I should have it posted here hopefully in the next few days. And if you guys want to check that out, that'll be really awesome. I'm really excited to just expand the scope of that podcast. And I just think beekeeping has so many more perspectives to be offered besides just mine here in Northern Florida or commercial perspective. I want to hear everybody's perspective, regardless of experience or location. And if you guys are ever interested in being interviewed for the podcast, I'm just doing about 1 interview per month right now. Please let me know. I don't care, again, if you're a brand new beekeeper or you're a veteran beekeeper. If you're in a different area or a different climate than I'm in here in Florida, I'm really interested, just because you're going to have some really interesting and unique things to say. And hopefully check out this new one I did with Bracken Barker. Hopefully here in the next few days I'll release it. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll catch you next week. Bye.